All right, what is up? We are finishing up with our strength and power phase, and we are going to be moving into a testing week so we can get some new numbers and see just how strong and powerful you've got over these past 4 weeks and before that with our foundational phase. So I'm going to share my screen with you and we're going to go through the testing, what we're going to do, okay? So we're going to start off with a speed and agility testing. So if you're not a field sport athlete and you don't necessarily care about your speed and agility, then this one would be optional for you. Do I still think you should do this? 100%. But it is an optional one for you. So speed and agility testing, with all of these, we're going to have like ample recovery, ample rest, because we're trying to get our actual best performance with these. So we have our warm up, right? It's 2 sets of everything. It's an extensive warm up. We're going to get a little bit of speed bounds in there, and then we're going to hit what's called a glute bridge march. This is just to activate the glutes a little bit more and prime you a little bit better so you can utilize them a little bit more effectively when we get into our sprints. We're going to get into fly 10. So we're essentially what we're going to test, instead of a standard like 40 or 60-yard dash for like baseball players, we're going to test both ends of the spectrum with a fly 10 to get your top miles per hour. And then we're going to get also your acceleration from a 10-yard split. If you want to do a 40-yard sprint, you totally can. I would just recommend doing it after some of your fly 10s with some ample rest with that. So let me scroll down to the fly 10s. Okay, so you can see I put some exercise notes in here, so make sure you're looking at those. So it's going to go over where you're going to place the cones at, what you're going to be doing. So it's a gradual buildup. We're not just going right into max sprints right away. I want to use a couple of these sets to help build up, warm ourselves up a little bit more. So the first 2 to 3 sets, you're essentially going to go from about a 60% speed up to about a 90%. And then the last 2 to 3 sets, you are going to try to beat your time every single time. Okay. So with this 4 5 minutes rest, it's really as much as you need in order to feel fully fresh and recovered. And once you can no longer get a better time for 2 consecutive sprints, you're done. Okay. So if you run a sprint, it's your fastest time. You go back, you run another sprint, it's a little bit slower than your fastest time. I would recommend that you take a little bit longer duration of rest because you may have just tried to sprint again too soon for your body to recover. Take a little bit longer rest and then sprint again. If you sprint again and it's still not faster than your fastest time, you're done and we got your fastest time. Okay. Now to get an accurate timing of this, all you're going to do is get your phone or camera at the last section of the 10 yards. You're going to film it, right? Just hit start, let it run through. Okay. And then you're going to go into your phone setting and hit edit. And all you're going to do is edit. You're going to scroll over on the timeline until you see your body or your foot or whatever it is, like knee, whatever it is, cross that first cone. As soon as it crosses that first cone, you're going to then record that time. And then again, at the end, when the first section of your body crosses the last cone, okay, then all you're going to do is some simple like subtraction, right? Subtract the first number from the second number, and that's going to give you the time duration that you ran those sprints. Now, when you're inputting this, hey, you're going to input it just so it's easy to do on the app and it records and tracks it over the long haul. You're just going to record the time that you ran that fly 10 in. Okay. So all you're going to do, so it might be like 2.33, right? You'll just hit 2.33, boom, plug it in, right? Plug it in every single time that you do it. If you want to like get all your times and everything, and then at the end plug it in, you could totally do that. But that way we'll be able to track that and you'll be able to easily see it under like your rep maxes when you go into your profile. Okay. So that's just how you're going to record all the speed and agility testing. It's going to be in weights, but it's actually going to be the time that you do it in. Okay. Because if we use the time function, it wants me to put the time that you're doing it in, and it's not as accurate. So if we do 2.33 or whatever it is, it's going to be a little more accurate. Okay, so that's the Fly 10, right? So it's really just a buildup with the Fly 10. So build, 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 build. You want to be at 100% as you cross through and maintain and run through that last cone. A lot of athletes will make the mistake of pulling up like a yard or 2 yards right before the end, and that's going to significantly increase the time that it takes you. You're going to have a worse performance. So make sure you run all the way through, like you're running another like 10 yards through, so you make sure you're at your actual, you get your fastest possible time. Okay. 10-yard get off, same thing. Okay. So all we're going to do, you don't have to come out of a 3-point stance if you are not familiar with it and you need a little bit of work. You can also get on a coaching call with me if you need some help and support on that. You can come out of a 2-point stance if you aren't very you haven't been trained out of a 3-point stance, because coming out of a 3-point stance, unless you're good at it, is actually going to make you slower. So I'd recommend that you come out of a 2-point stance and you're hugging the line as much as you can with that 2-point stance. So same thing, get your filament from the side, right? When you first movement on this one, and then when your first body part crosses the next cone. Then we're going to get into a little bit of agility. Okay, so we have our pro shuttle, same thing. So now we're looking at lateral quickness. Okay, so you're starting in the middle, 5 yards to the side, 10 yards back to the other cone, and then you stop the time when your first body part crosses back that middle cone again. So okay, again, it's first movement, and then again, when you cross that middle cone again, typically it's going to be your head crossing that first portion of the time. Okay, so again, you'll put that in the weight section, and then we have our L cone drill. Okay, so our L cone drill, if you're not familiar with it, definitely watch the video. So you're going to sprint up 5, sprint back to the original start, go back up around, do a figure 8, and sprint and run all the way through. Okay, so little pro tip. Okay, in the beginning, you want to hug the cone, come back. You want to gain about a yard's distance away from that cone, so the right-hand turn is going to be a little bit easier. Okay, so you're going to come around, quick turn, and then you want to run as if you're like rounding third base. Okay, so you're running and sprinting in a loop, and if this is the cone, you want to get as close as you can in a loop and come back down. Okay, you don't want to sprint and then cut and then sprint. It's going to be slower because you're taking away from your overall top speed. So if you loop and come around like you're rounding third and run through as fast as you can, it's going to be a better time for you. Okay, so with each of these, okay, 2 to 3 times. We don't need to spend like all day on this with like warm-up sets, since we're already going to be pretty warm. The only thing I would recommend is that with like your first or second one, you just run one at like 50-60%, just so you can feel it out, get your footwork, know the drill. Okay, and then another one at a little faster pace, and then you run 2 to 3 where you get your fastest time, and then you're out. Okay, so that's the speed and agility testing day. Then we're going to get into some strength and power training. So it's 2 separate days, just because I don't want to try to fit it all in one single day, just because the later exercises that you're going to try to do, you'll already be a little bit fatigued, so you won't get like true strength metrics out of it. If you absolutely need to, you can do this all on one day. It just might be a very long day if you're going through it. Okay, so strength and power, have our warm up. Again, if you need to spend a little bit more time getting warm, if you need to go hit the treadmill or like a bike to just get the blood flowing a little bit, you need to hit some like banded like hip circle walks, hip circle squats, anything like that, so you feel like really good, ready to go, then get after it. Okay, I'm totally good with that. We're going to do another power-based movement on this day prior. So we're going to hit our power-based movement first on both days and then go into strength. So it should help like prime the central nervous system a little bit, give you our best performance, and actually kind of help the next exercise. And we get to know where we're at. So broad jump test, really simple. Okay, all you're going to do is, oh, this shouldn't say sprint. This should say jumps. Jumps. Okay, all you're going to do is put a cone, right? Big jump, jump out as far as you can. You measure where your heels land, okay? And you need to stick the landing, okay? So if you like fall on your butt and your hands, it doesn't count. You need to be able to stick the landing with this. Little pro tip with this is actually like imagine yourself where you want to jump. And then when you load up and jump out, you want to jump up and out at a 45-degree angle and pull your knees as high as you possibly can to your body, like you're Spider-Man, right? Like you're pulling your knees as close as you can to your chest and up. That way you have as much time in the air to get as much distance as you can before you land, to give yourself a little bit better numbers and better performance with this. So you don't want to jump straight across, right? You don't want to jump super high with it. You want to jump up and out at a 45-degree angle, pulling your knees up, because that's going to give you your furthest distance with this. Okay. So again, first couple, you can, if you've never done it, just practice the landing, right? And then just max jumps until you can no longer beat that best performance for 2 consecutive jumps with that, and then record the distance in the weight section. So there's an example down here. Try to record it in feet. For my sake, if you want to do to meters, it might be a little I will just have to convert it, but it would just be a little bit challenging for so it'd be easier across the board if everyone just did it in feet and inches. Okay, so if it was like 6'7", right? All you're gonna do is do 6.7. If it's like 6 feet 11 inches, just do 6.11, and internally we're gonna know that the 0.11 actually means 11 inches for this, not that it's actually lower than say like a 6.7, right? So just know that it'll be there, or that's how we're going to look at this and view this with that. Okay. And then we're going to go a little bit, there's a little goblet squat in here. This is optional, but for me personally, I found that doing a little bit, like a little lighter movement, focusing on full depth, kind of prying my hips open, allows me to get in a better squat position later on. So that's there for you, just a little warm up with that. Now with the lifting, okay, so this is barbell back squat. You can also do a front squat, and I believe in here there should be another one in here, a box squat as well with that. Okay, so any of those options are good with me. Okay, now the goal of this is to get yourself, right, looks like a lot of sets. The goal of this is just to get yourself warm and ready enough to where you feel really, really good in order to try and attempt like your new PR or new max. Okay. We don't, and these are all based off of your previous numbers. Okay. So if you're not seeing anything in here in your training, it's because we don't have any previous numbers on you. And that's why we need to do this. Okay. So it's very gradual progression, but if you get to right here, right, you can even take this down to 2 reps, maybe 4 reps. We don't want to do too many reps and at a higher intensity where you're actually going to like fatigue yourself out. Okay. So if you're feeling good and like ready to go after this one, you can put on like your new PR attempt for your 4th set, right? If you're someone like me who typically needs a little bit more and needs to kind of feel that weight a little bit more as I get ready to go for a new PR attempt, then you could take it out a little bit further. Okay. But once you decide to try for your 1 rep max, everything after that should just be one rep. Okay. 1 rep, where you're just trying to inch and go a little bit more with it. Okay. When you're doing your 1 rep max, you don't want to do like huge jumps. Like you don't want to, like if you're over like 400 pounds, you don't want to go from like 400 to like 425 if 400's like a new PR for you, right? Like you want to try to maybe put 405 on or 410 on and go for it based off how you're feeling. Okay. But again, just get warmed up enough to where you're feeling really good. You've got a decent load on your back and you're ready to go for it, and then have at it, record your numbers. Okay. And then this is going to save as a 1 rep max. Okay. It's going to save it. So it should plug it in there for you in your rep maxes on your profile. With squat and bench, I definitely recommend that you have a spotter. So just ask a random person who looks like they've been lifting. just for safety, right? If you are not comfortable with that, you can do a 2 to 3 rep max, but what you'll have to do is you'll have to use a 1 rep max calculator that you can find online. Really, you can just type in like 1 rep max calculator, put the number of reps you did, put the weight, and then it'll give you an estimated 1 rep max. But if you do that, you're going to have to go back into your profile and make sure that it uploads correctly so you have your true estimated 1 rep max for that. Okay, same thing on bench press, right? It's a little bit different. Volumes a little bit lighter, a little more reps here, and then we work our way down quite quickly, just as the rest. Okay, so that's it for this day. If you wanted to do a little bit extra work, like you're like, oh, it doesn't quite feel like a workout to me, I want to do a little bit more, you can go and use the rest of the day kind of as like a free day. If you want to hit arms, shoulders, core, you want to do a little conditioning, I'm totally good with that. We just want to stay away from any more like legs or hamstrings or glutes or back, because we're really going to do that on the next day. Okay, but if you want to do a couple more plyos, anything like that, I'm good with it. We're going to have another rest day in between. On those rest days too, again, try to keep it light, right? Like walking, stretching, mobility in there. Nothing that's like a heavy conditioning or another lift day, because that's just going to kind of take your recovery down and you're not going to be at like ready to go for the next day. Okay, so strength and power day 2. Now we're going to get into a power clean. So it's power clean or hang power clean. With this, again, we're starting off a little lower volume with this. The rest is a little higher than the other ones, but again, as much rest as you need. 3 reps, again, working up or working down to about 1 rep, and then you're just going to 1 rep, 1 rep, 1 rep until you get your highest value or the highest weight that you're able to do with that. And then with deadlifts as well, so you can either do a deadlift, or an RDL, or you can do a trap bar deadlift as well, whichever you feel most comfortable with. Deadlift will be great. RDL is great. Trap bar deadlift is great. If you're going to do the trap bar deadlift, just make sure it's in more of a hinge pattern and not like a squat pattern, because we've already got the squat max. So just some reminders, right? We don't want to get too like squat max variations with that. So don't really need a spotter on this one. You just drop the bar if you can't get it up, right? And then same thing, you can do a 2 to 3 rep max. And then at the end, we're going to do a pull-up max reps test. Okay, so if you need to do a couple, like a warm-up pull-up or 2, have at it. But essentially all you're going to do is you're doing max pull-ups, and all you're going to do is record the number that you got in the weight section. So it records that for us and we know from there. So that's our testing day. Then after this, we are going to be moving into phase 3, where we're going to be moving into more power speed. We're still going to hit some strength, as you guys know, like we're still going to have some strength, but we'll have this week to get new numbers, and then next week we are going to get right back into it. So use this week to go heavy and then recover after that, right? Like this shouldn't be like another super heavy, intense training week, because I want you feeling a little fresh going into the next week. All right, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post them down below, and I will chat with all of you soon.